I want to thank you for inviting me for this very important initiative. I'd like to talk about gyroscience. And before I share with you some of the slides, I just want to make one point clear. Uh, Aging has a biology, and we know that because we know who's old and who's young. But what's very important is this biology can be targeted. Aging is actually quite flexible and we can do a lot about it. We can do it to delay aging, to stop aging, maybe even to reverse aging. If we stop the aging process, we don't drive the diseases, so we enjoy more health span and probably more longevity as well. And this is something that's happening now. It's not a science fiction. So I'll talk mainly about the TAME trial. And I want to start connecting it to the COVID-19 because I think it demonstrates some of the most important thing on biology of aging. And I have here data from all over the world. This is China, Italy, US, and the EU. And let's look at China. Your chances of dying when you're over the age of 80 is 180 times more than when you're in your 20s. Aging is the major risk for death of COVID. There's not other thing that is such a major risk for COVID. Um, and really, it's not only for COVID. Aging is the major risk of every age-related disease, a risk of death from any other diseases. And look here, so this is the rates of death from diseases, and this is age. And you see that the death from heart disease goes from 5 to 100,000 to 5,000 to 100,000. So the risk of aging from dying from heart disease is 1,000-fold. And you can say, hey, no, cholesterol is the risk. No, cholesterol is like a threefold. The major risk for dying is from heart disease is aging. And look, cancer is the same, and all the other age-related diseases are the same. So if you have a heart attack and you go to the hospital and they do bypass or stent, okay, what happens 2 years later? You'll get diabetes or cancer or Alzheimer because you only were treated for a certain disease and not from the aging component of that. It is true that which disease you're going to get first depends on genetics and environment. If your mother had diabetes and you're obese, you'll die from diabetes first. And that underlines another concept that we age at different rates. Um, there's a chronological and biological age, and we have to understand this concept because this is a major concept on aging. So the question is, can we target the biology of aging? And we agreed on, we call the hallmarks of aging. We kind of agree on a hallmark. We might call them a little bit different. So if you saw a different scheme, it's okay. It's kind of all the same. But the major point about those hallmarks is, first of all, to become a hallmark, you have to show that it impairs with aging, and if you target it, it increases health span and lifespan. That's how you become a hallmark. It's not to say that those are the causes of aging necessarily, but they occur in aging. And the good news about it, that as you can see here, all of them are interrelated. In other words, you can target one and affect all the others. So, so you don't have to treat all of them together, although it's an opportunity to really find a target to all of them and use this all together and have a much more major impact. In any case, okay, what we know is that healthy lifespan, and I'm talking about health span, not only on lifespan. If you target aging, and aging causes the disease, you're doing both. You're delaying health span and you're delaying lifespan. But both of those have been extended in numerous animal models. And also relevant drugs that are in use in humans have shown to do that. So there are drugs available that we should find a way to repurpose right now. I would just make a point about COVID. One of the reasons elderly get and die from COVID is there a decrease in immune function. And also there's an inflammation, which is what kills most of the people like few days into the disease. So we need to increase the immunity and decrease the inflammation, but we need to really globally deal with aging because we want the old body to sustain better a very severe disease. So this is important against COVID. It's important for the success of the vaccination. It's important for the next virus, whatever it will be, and it will be, we know. And it's actually important against any one of those diseases. So when COVID came, there was this figure in Nature that tried to talk about multimorbidities, many diseases, as the risk for death. But really, that's not how we geroscientists look at it. Here it shows you that as we age, people accumulate in dark colors, they accumulated more than one disease. So over the age of 85, there are like 5% who have 8 and more diseases, but more of half of the people have over 4 diseases. Um, and at age 65, half of the people have less than 2 diseases and half of the people have more than 2 diseases. For us, it's just an indication of biological age. As I told you, and as you know, we age at different rates. Okay, so the people who age slower have less diseases than the people who age faster. And this has to be into consideration because, for example, with vaccination, although they include people even over the age of 75, they don't have many multimorbidities, which means they're younger than their chronological age. I actually want to tell you about this population that I'm looking at, and those are 4 siblings that were born in New York City between 1910 and 1920. And the interesting thing is that each of them passed the age of 102. The little sister actually died at 102, the big sister 110, 107, and 109. And we have over 750 centenarians now and 3,000 other subjects whose aging was slowed. And we're looking for longevity genes associated with them so that we can potentially slow aging for everyone. And there are 2 drugs that are already developed around them. But the main reason I'm showing you that is because the question for people is always, okay, did those guys get sick when everybody got sick? And now they're living longer, but they are living longer with sickness? Or is their lifespan and health span, did it go together? And the answer is from 2 different studies, from ours and from New England centenarian studies. Those are 2 groups of control in green and black, and our centenarians in blue and red. And we were looking at when they got those diseases. So at the beginning, nobody was sick. And let's look only at the green and blue. That's our study. So the green, like at age 60, starts accumulating diseases. And at age 80, only 10% didn't have a disease. While our centenarians in blue were healthier for 20, 30 years later. And even after the age of 100, 30% of them didn't have a disease. They actually died one day. And this was also shown by the CDC, the Center of Disease Control, that look at the medical cost during the last 2 years of life of somebody who dies at 70 versus those who die at 100. Their medical cost is third, those who dies after 100. So there's a great saving. We call it the longevity dividend, because if you're healthy, it's very good for the people and it's good for the economy. And so there's no way we cannot do it. We have to do it. And basically, what I'm saying is those populations have slower rate of aging. We have this example in humans. Let's translate it and make it into a therapy. By the way, there's many centenarians that survived COVID, many. This is the oldest one. A month ago, she was 117 and a nun in France, and she survived a COVID. So those guys are healthy for very long time after us. So there is a challenge in translating our findings to humans because usually you have a biological discovery and a biotech or pharmaceuticals develop the drug, and then there's a drug to deal with disease, and then they want us biologists to find other mechanisms so that they can do other drugs, combination of drugs, better drugs, and that's how the pharmaceuticals and the scientists and the medical profession is thriving. The problem is that aging is not an indication to treat. So if diseases of aging are not recognized as preventable conditions, then healthcare provider would not pay to their clients to use those drugs. And if that happens, pharmaceuticals are not going to jump in and develop other drugs, better drugs, because they need a business plan. How do we overcome that?